There is a cup that has been poured every morning for 3,000 years, and it is not coffee. It was poured in Nazareth before sunrise, and in Egypt before the pyramids were finished. It holds 4 times more antioxidants than coffee. Jesus drank it and named it in Scripture, yet almost nobody knows. By the end of this, you will know the plant, the verse, the science, and how to grow it yourself. But I am not going to tell you what this leaf is yet, because first, you need to understand the world it came from. You need to see why something this powerful was growing under your feet your entire life, and nobody thought to mention it. Stay with me. Picture the hills east of Jerusalem just before dawn, the terraced limestone slopes above the Kidron Valley. The air is sharp and cool, and it carries the scent of something green, something peppery and bright. Dew sits on narrow leaves. A thin mist clings to the ground between the rocks where wild herbs have been growing since before anyone kept records. This is not a manicured garden. This is a hillside kitchen. Every plant here has a job. Some are food, some are medicine, some are both. And in the ancient world, the difference between the two did not exist. What healed you and what fed you came from the same soil. The same hands that planted barley for bread planted herbs for healing. The same woman who ground grain on a stone mortar in the morning crushed leaves into a paste for a wound by afternoon. Food and medicine were not 2 aisles in a store. They were one garden behind one house. In this part of the world, herbs were not a luxury. They were survival. A household without a herb garden was a household in trouble. Herbs flavored bread that would have been bland without them. They preserved meat in the summer heat when there was no refrigeration. They repelled insects from stored grain. They settled the stomach after a meal of rough bread and salted fish. They cleaned wounds when there was no physician within a day's walk. They were ranked alongside grain and oil and salt as the most basic necessities of daily life. If you had nothing else, you had herbs. And if you had herbs, you had a chance. Picture the woman of this household. She rises before the sun. She walks barefoot across the courtyard stones, still cool from the night. She kneels at the edge of the garden and begins picking. She knows every plant by touch and by smell. She does not need labels. She does not need a book. Her mother taught her, and her mother's mother taught before that. This knowledge moved from hand to hand, the way seeds move from soil to soil. Unwritten, unbroken, alive. The Torah required a tithe of everything the land produced, not just wheat and barley and wine, everything. 1/10 of your figs, 1/10 of your olives, 1/10 of the smallest, most ordinary herbs growing in the corner of your garden. The rabbinical tradition took this seriously. The Mishnah, the written record of Jewish oral law compiled around 220 CE, includes detailed instructions for tithing garden herbs. Even the tiniest plants were measured and counted and offered to God. Nothing was too small. And there was one herb in particular that the Pharisees became famous for tithing. It was so common it grew between the courtyard stones, so ordinary that most people did not think twice about it, so abundant that it spread across the garden without anyone planting it. It just appeared. Its roots crept underground and sent up new shoots a foot away from where you planted it. Then 2 feet, then across the walkway, then into your neighbor's plot, season after season, year after year. A plant so determined to grow that you could not stop it if you tried. It thrived in poor soil and rich soil alike, in shade and in sun, near water and far from it. It needed nothing from you and gave you everything in return. If you crushed a single leaf of this plant between your fingers, you would know it instantly. The scent would hit you before you even looked down, sharp and green and bright and unmistakable, a scent that has not changed in 3,000 years. a scent your body recognizes before your mind does. Archaeologists have found the remains of this plant across the Judean hills and the Galilee. It appears in soil layers dating back to the Iron Age. Dr. Mordecai Kislev at Bar Ilan University spent decades cataloging plant remains from ancient domestic sites in Israel. The seeds and leaf fragments of this herb appeared again and again, in kitchens, in courtyards, in storage rooms, in the packed earth beside bread ovens and grinding stones. Wherever people cooked and ate and healed their families, this plant was within arm's reach. Wherever people lived, this plant lived with them. Now your grandmother may not have lived on the slopes above Jerusalem, but if she grew up in the Philippines or West Africa or Jamaica, she knew this plant. If she grew up in the American South, she knew it too. She grew it behind her kitchen without thinking about it. She picked a handful of leaves when someone in the house had a stomachache or could not sleep. She steeped them in hot water the way her own mother taught her. She did not call it a superfood. She did not read a single study about it. She just knew that it worked. She was doing exactly what women had done in the hills of Galilee 3,000 years before her, and she never read a single verse about it. But the leaf she picked and the leaf that grew between the stones of every courtyard in ancient Judea are hiding something remarkable, something your doctor never mentioned and the supplement industry hopes you never find out. The plant is mint, the same mint you smell in toothpaste and chewing gum and candy canes and mouthwash. The same mint the modern world stripped down to a flavor and forgot was ever medicine. Now when most people hear the word mint, they think of a breath freshener. They think of a pale green tea bag they tried once and never bought again. They think of something gentle, something mild, something that could not possibly matter. And that is exactly the lie the modern food industry needs you to believe. Because the real mint was not mild. The wild mint of the Judean hills, the mint that grew in every courtyard from Nazareth to the Negev. It was not gentle. It was medicinal. It was powerful. And God named it directly. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 23, verse 23, Jesus stands in the temple and speaks directly to the Pharisees. He says, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you tithe mint and dill and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of the law, justice and mercy and faithfulness. These ought you to have done without neglecting the others." Jesus is not condemning the tithing of mint. He is condemning the Pharisees for obsessing over small herbs while ignoring the large commandments. But in doing so, he names mint by name, not in a parable, not in a metaphor. In plain speech, mint was so ordinary, so present, so woven into daily life that Jesus used it as a symbol, the very symbol of the smallest offering from the garden. In the Gospel of Luke, chapter 11, verse 42, the same teaching appears again. "But woe to you, Pharisees, for you tithe mint and rue and every herb and dolan to neglect justice and the love of God." Luke adds rue and broadens to every herb, but mint leads the list. It was the first example that came to mind because it was the first herb you would see in any garden. This was not an obscure plant known only in Judea. It had a reputation that stretched across the entire ancient world. Pliny the Elder wrote about its medicinal uses in his natural history in the 1st century. He noted that the very scent of mint revived the spirit and sharpened the appetite. Dioscorides was a Greek physician whose work shaped medicine for over 1,000 years. He cataloged mint in De Materia Medica in the same era Jesus walked the earth. He described it as a warming herb useful for the stomach, the breath, and the blood. The Ebers Papyrus is one of the oldest surviving medical texts from ancient Egypt. It dates to roughly 1,500 years before Christ. It describes the use of mint for digestive complaints and chest congestion. Before Moses led anyone out of Egypt, Egyptian physicians were already prescribing this leaf. Every civilization that encountered this plant recognized what it could do. Every healer kept it close. Every kitchen kept it closer. So if mint was in every garden in Galilee and in the words of Jesus himself, why did it vanish? Why did it end up as a flavor in a stick of gum? If it appeared in the medical texts of Rome and Egypt and Greece, why did it disappear from your kitchen? And what is it doing inside your body that nobody talks about? Here is where it gets interesting. Do not skip this part. Remember what I said at the beginning. 4 times more antioxidants than coffee. Let me show you what that number means. Dried peppermint leaves contain approximately 160,000 micromoles of Trolox equivalents per 100 grams in antioxidant capacity. That measurement comes from the ORAC database originally maintained by the United States Department of Agriculture. Roasted coffee beans measure between 15,000 and 25,000 by the same standard. Per gram of raw plant material, mint delivers roughly 6 to 10 times the antioxidant power of coffee. Now you might be thinking it depends on how you prepare it. And you are right. A single tea bag from the grocery store is not going to give you this. Those tea bags contain about 1.5 grams of dried leaf. That is a trace amount. A traditional infusion uses a full handful of fresh leaves steeped in hot water. 8 to 10 minutes. That is how it was made in the ancient world. That is the difference between a faint flavor and a therapeutic dose. And that difference is exactly why nobody tells you this. Because the version they sell you is designed to taste like mint, not to work like mint. The signature compound in mint is called rosmarinic acid. It is named after rosemary, another biblical herb, but mint contains it at even higher concentrations. A strong, fresh mint infusion delivers between 100 and 300 milligrams of rosmarinic acid per cup. A standard peppermint supplement capsule from the pharmacy shelf contains 50 to 150 milligrams. The tea made from the actual leaf delivers more than the pill, every single time. A 2006 study published in Phytotherapy Research found that rosmarinic acid is a potent anti-inflammatory compound that helps reduce inflammation in the body through natural plant pathways. A 2019 meta-analysis published in BMC Complementary Medicine and Therapies reviewed 14 clinical trials on peppermint. The results showed significant reduction in symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome. Pain, bloating, and urgency all improved. The active compound responsible is menthol. Fresh mint tea delivers menthol in a bioavailable, water-soluble form your body can absorb immediately. A 2017 study in the journal Inflammopharmacology tested concentrated mint extract in laboratory settings and found it reduced certain inflammatory markers. And there is more. Per 100 grams of fresh spearmint, the USDA Food Data Central Database reports 199 milligrams of calcium, 63 milligrams of magnesium, nearly 12 milligrams of iron. Those iron numbers alone are worth stopping for. 12 milligrams of iron from a garden herb. Spinach, the food everyone associates with iron, contains about 2.7 milligrams per 100 grams. Mint delivers more than 4 times as much. A leaf most people throw away after garnishing a glass of iced tea. And it contains more iron than the vegetable doctors recommend for anemia. For a leafy herb that self-seeds and costs nothing to maintain, those numbers are remarkable. Think of it as compound interest for your body. Small deposits of nutrition every single morning that build over weeks and months and years. Not a dramatic change overnight. A quiet, steady accumulation that your bones and blood and nerves can feel even if you cannot explain it. A 2014 study published in the Avicenna Journal of Phytomedicine found that inhaling peppermint aroma reduced cortisol levels and improved cognitive performance. Cortisol is your body's stress hormone. When it stays elevated for weeks and months, it breaks down muscle, weakens your immune system, disrupts your sleep, and fogs your thinking. 7 out of 10 adults over the age of 50 report chronic stress. Most reach for a pill or a supplement or a meditation app that costs $12 a month. The ancient world reached for a leaf. They did not have a word for cortisol, but they knew what happened when they crushed mint leaves between their palms and breathed deeply before prayer. The head cleared, the shoulders dropped, the breathing slowed, the hands stopped shaking. And the day became manageable again. A 2013 study in the Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition tested peppermint supplementation. It improved exercise performance and reduced perceived effort. The researchers noted increased grip strength and standing broad jump distance. This is not a fragile herb for people who are already healthy. This is a robust plant that makes strong people stronger and tired people less tired. Now think about this. A bottle of peppermint oil capsules costs $15 to $25 and lasts about a month. A greens powder with antioxidant claims costs $40 to $60. A magnesium supplement costs another $15. An anti-inflammatory supplement costs another $20. You are looking at $100 a month or more trying to buy back what a single plant provides for free. A single mint plant from any garden center costs $3. It produces fresh leaves every week for years. It spreads on its own. It multiplies when you cut it. It comes back every spring without being replanted. You are spending more money for less nutrition because someone put it in a bottle with a label and called it a supplement. Your grandmother spent nothing. She walked into her garden before the sun was fully up and picked what she needed with her bare hands. She got more from that one handful of leaves than anything on that pharmacy shelf, and it grew back the next week without her asking. So if this plant does all of this, if the science confirms what your grandmother already knew, why did we stop drinking it? Why did coffee win?
Before we continue, let me explain something. By now you know what kind of foods and drinks they had. The harder question is the one nobody answers. What do you actually put on the table tomorrow morning? How much? How often? And how to make it in your own kitchen, with things you can buy at any normal grocery store. That's the part we wrote down for you in our e-guide. Printable recipe cards, the exact amounts, a shopping list you can take with you, and a simple 7-day plan, so you're not guessing on day one. Here's how to get it. First, pause the video, pick up your phone, open the camera, and hold it up toward the square on your screen, and just keep it still. Don't press anything. In a second or two, a link will appear on your phone. Tap that link, and the guide opens. I will leave the code here for 30 seconds, but now let's get back to the video.
For thousands of years, mint was medicine. It was the first thing a mother reached for when a child had a stomachache. It was steeped and sipped after every meal across the Mediterranean, the Middle East, and North Africa. It was crushed and inhaled to clear the head before work and before worship. It was bundled with other herbs and hung in doorways. It was the daily rhythm of health in the ancient world, not because anyone called it that, just because it was there. Then the modern world arrived. And the modern world did not need herb gardens. It needed factories. It needed workers who could operate machines for 14 hours without stopping. Coffee became the fuel of the Industrial Revolution, not because it was healthier, but because it made workers faster and more alert and less likely to stop. Caffeine was productivity. Mint was rest. Mint was the slow morning. Mint was the quiet cup before prayer. And rest did not build railroads or turn looms or load ships at the docks. By the 1800s, coffee houses had replaced the kitchen table. By the 1900s, instant coffee had replaced the slow brew. By the 2000s, drive-through coffee shops stood on every corner in America. The average person was spending over $1,000 a year on coffee drinks. The leaf that once started every morning in the ancient world had been pushed to the very back of the shelf. Not because it stopped working, not because something better came along, but because the world decided it no longer had time to sit still. The food industry found a way to use mint without honoring it. They extracted menthol from the leaf. They stripped away the rosmarinic acid, the flavonoids, the calcium, the iron, the magnesium. They kept only the taste. That is why mint now lives in chewing gum and candy canes and toothpaste and mouthwash. They took a medicinal herb that God placed in every garden on earth and reduced it to a flavor. The leaf itself was left behind like an empty jar. When science eventually confirmed what the ancient world already knew, the industry did not tell you to grow mint. They confirmed the anti-inflammatory properties. They confirmed the antioxidant power. They confirmed the digestive benefits. And then they kept that information for themselves. They did not put a seed packet in the supplement aisle. They did not print the growing instructions on the back of a box. They isolated the compounds. They pressed them into capsules. They bottled them in dark glass with labels you need a chemistry degree to read. And they sold them back to you at a markup. A plant that costs $3 and lasts for years was repackaged into monthly subscriptions and wellness brands. Nobody sat in a room and decided to hide mint from you. They just found something faster and something more profitable, and the garden got a little quieter. But the plant never left. It is still growing wild in Israel, in Lebanon, in Turkey, in Greece, in Morocco, where they steep it strong and sweet and drink it 3 times a day, in the hills where Jesus walked, and in the cracks of sidewalks in towns that have never heard of antioxidants. Mint does not need your permission to survive. It does not need a greenhouse or a raised bed or a YouTube tutorial. It just needs you to remember that it exists. And today, you are going to remember. But before I show you how, I want you to see something. It is early morning in a small courtyard behind a limestone house in the hills above Nazareth. The sky is barely light, pale blue fading into white near the eastern ridge. The air is still. You can hear a rooster somewhere on the far side of the village. The smell of last night's cook fire still hangs faintly in the courtyard. A few embers glow orange under the ash. A woman kneels beside a low stone wall where herbs grow thick in every crack and along every edge. The mint has taken over the corner of the courtyard the way mint always does. Green stems pressing against each other, small serrated leaves heavy with dew. The plant has crept beyond the wall and into the walkway. She does not mind. She has never minded. The more it grows, the more she has. She reaches down and pinches a stem near the base. The leaves release their scent before her hand reaches the cup. That sharp green sweetness that fills the nose and opens the chest. She gathers a full handful, not a careful pinch, not a measured amount, a generous fistful of leaves. The way you would gather them if they grew free and abundant, if your mother had taught you exactly how much was enough. She drops the leaves into a clay cup that has been in this family longer than anyone can remember. The rim is worn smooth from 100,000 mornings just like this one. She pours water that was heated over the morning fire. Not boiling, just hot enough that the surface trembles. The leaves curl and darken. The water turns pale green, then deeper. The scent rises with the steam. She holds the cup in both hands and waits. This is not a recipe. This is a rhythm. Something her mother did. Something her mother's mother did. Something every woman in this town has done since before anyone thought to write it down. And when a boy walks into that kitchen, this is what is waiting for him. the boy who will one day stand in the temple and name this very herb in front of the Pharisees. Not because it is special, because that is just what morning looks like. Mint from the garden, hot water from the fire. The first sip before the day begins. She did not know the word antioxidant. She did not know what rosmarinic acid was. She did not know that one day a laboratory would measure dried peppermint leaves, that they would find more protective compounds per gram than almost any plant on earth. She just knew that when the morning started with this cup, the day went better. The stomach settled, the head cleared, the hand steadied. And the boy grew strong. Now let me give you what she had. You can start today. And it is simpler than you think. Go to any garden center or nursery and buy a single mint plant, spearmint or peppermint, either one. The cost is $2 to $4. One plant, that is all you will ever need to buy. Take a 12-inch pot or a 5-gallon bucket with drainage holes drilled in the bottom. This is important. Do not plant mint in the ground unless you want it to take over every inch of your garden within one season. In a container, it stays manageable and you control the harvest. Fill the pot with standard potting mix. No special soil, no amendments, no expensive bags from the garden center. Mint grew in rocky Judean hillside soil for thousands of years. Your potting mix is a luxury it does not need. Place the transplant at the same depth it sat in the nursery pot. Press the soil gently around the base. Water it thoroughly until water runs out from the bottom. Give it 4 to 6 hours of sunlight. Mint actually prefers partial shade in hot climates. If you are growing in the Philippines or the Caribbean or West Africa, give it shade from the brutal afternoon sun. Put the pot where it gets morning light and afternoon shade. The leaves will be larger and more tender and more aromatic than anything you could buy in a store. Water every 2 to 3 days in most climates. Every day if the heat is extreme. Push your finger 1 inch into the soil. If it is dry, you water. If it is still damp, you wait. Do not overthink it. If you want to start from seed instead, the process takes a little longer but costs almost nothing. Mint seeds are tiny, almost like dust. Scatter them across the surface of moist potting mix. Do not bury them. Mint seeds need light to germinate. Press them gently into the surface with the flat of your palm and mist them with water. Cover the pot with clear plastic wrap to hold in the humidity. Set it in a warm spot with indirect light. In 10 to 15 days, you will see tiny paired leaves pushing through the surface. They will look delicate, but they are not. These are the same plants that push through the cracks of stone walls in the Jordan Valley. Once the seedlings have 2 sets of true leaves, remove the plastic and move the pot into the sun. Your first harvest comes in 6 to 8 weeks from a transplant, a little longer from seed. And here is how you harvest to make the plant grow stronger. Pinch or cut the stems just above a leaf node. That is the point where 2 leaves branch out from the main stem. When you cut there, the plant sends out 2 new shoots. Every harvest makes the plant bushier and more productive. This is a plant that rewards you for using it. Do not let it flower. Once mint flowers, the leaves lose some of their aromatic oil. Pinch off the flower buds as soon as they appear. The plant will redirect all its energy back into the leaves, into the oils, into the compounds you came for. Now here is the part that will change everything. Take a stem 4 to 6 inches long from a healthy plant. Strip the leaves from the bottom 2 inches. Place the bare stem in a glass of water on your windowsill. Within 7 to 10 days, you will see white roots forming. Once the roots reach 1 to 2 inches long, plant that cutting in a new pot. 1 plant becomes 2. 2 becomes 4. 4 becomes more than you can use. By next season, you will be giving mint away to your neighbors and your church. You will never buy it again. And when you are ready to make the tea, the real tea, do it the way it was done 3,000 years ago. Take a full handful of fresh leaves, 10 to 15 leaves at least. Crush them lightly between your palms. You will feel the oils release. You will smell it before the water touches them. Drop the leaves into a cup. Pour water that has been heated just below boiling, around 200 degrees. Let it steep for 8 to 10 minutes. Not 3 minutes like the box says. 8 to 10. The water will turn a deep golden green. That color is the rosmarinic acid. That color is the polyphenols. That color is what you came for. Drink it plain, or add raw honey the way it would have been sweetened in the ancient world. Do not add sugar. Do not add milk. Let the mint do its work. And if you have more leaves than you can use fresh, dry them. Bundle 5 to 6 stems together with a piece of string. Hang them upside down in a warm, dry spot, away from direct sunlight. A pantry shelf or a kitchen doorway works perfectly. In 5 to 7 days, the leaves will be dry and crumbly. Strip them from the stems and store them in a glass jar with a tight lid. They will hold their potency for 6 months to a year. You will have mint tea through the winter from leaves you picked in the summer. Your grandmother did the same thing with a piece of twine and a nail in the doorframe. If you live in a tropical climate in the Philippines or Southeast Asia or the Caribbean or West Africa, mint will grow outdoors year-round. Just give it shade from the harshest afternoon sun and water it daily. It will produce leaves continuously without stopping. If you live in a cooler climate like the United States or the United Kingdom or Canada, mint is a perennial. It thrives in hardiness zones 3 through 11. It will die back in winter, but it is not dead. The roots are alive under the soil. Come spring, it will return. In the coldest areas, mulch the pot heavily or bring it indoors to a sunny windowsill. And once you have mint growing, consider the herbs that grew beside it in the ancient world. Dill, which Jesus named alongside mint in Matthew chapter 23. Plant dill seeds a 1/4 inch deep in a 10-inch pot. Give it 6 hours of sun and water every 2 to 3 days. Sprouts appear in 10 to 14 days. First harvest in 6 to 8 weeks. Dill self-seeds freely, so plant it once and it returns on its own year after year. Cumin, the third herb Jesus named in that same verse. It has been cultivated in the Middle East for over 4,000 years. The prophet Isaiah described the careful way farmers planted and harvested cumin in chapter 28, verses 25 through 27. You can grow cumin from seed in a 12-inch container. Full sun. Harvest the seed heads when they turn brown in roughly 4 months. 3 pots on your porch, mint, dill, and cumin, and you are growing the exact 3 herbs Jesus named in one sentence. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and keep it. That is Genesis chapter 2, verse 15. Planting this herb is not a hobby. It is the original assignment. God put it in the ground before there were pharmacies, before there were supplement companies, before there were grocery aisles lined with capsules and powders and promises. He put it in the soil and He asked you to tend it, and He designed it to give back more than you put in. Do not worry if you have never grown anything before. This is the most forgiving plant on earth. It wants to grow. It will grow in good soil and poor soil, in full sun and partial shade, in a hand-thrown ceramic pot and a cracked plastic bucket on your back porch. People have been growing this for 3,000 years without a single gardening video. If you have soil and water and a little bit of sun, you have everything you need. 2,000 years ago, in a small courtyard above Nazareth, a woman reached into her garden. She pulled a handful of mint leaves, still wet with dew. She dropped them into a clay cup. She poured hot water from the fire. She handed it to her son. She did not consult a doctor. She did not open a prescription. She used what God put in the soil. 4 times more antioxidants than the coffee the modern world runs on. More rosmarinic acid than the capsule the supplement industry sells for $15. A plant that grows back every time you cut it. A plant that multiplies when you share it. A plant Jesus named by name in the temple. The garden never asked you to be an expert. It only asked you to show up, to kneel in the dirt the way someone knelt before you, to pick what grows, to steep it slowly, to drink it the way 10,000 mornings came before yours. The kettle is on. The leaves are waiting. Go steep something.